With widespread virus, social unrest, and geopolitical tensions at levels not seen in the past decades, 2020 will probably warrant a thick chapter in future history books. Numerous intellectuals reckon that today's world actually echoes the era between both world wars, a period which we call interwar period. In this two-part series, we'll dive into the past and observe similar events and phenomena through social and economic lens. Heading out of World War I, nationalistic sentiment from both colonial and defeated countries were high. Different movements emerged around the world, demanding for independence and social revolution. In the recent decade, a rising number of people are taking to the streets for a variety of demands. Though the causes and scales were different from those 100 years ago, the broad desire to break free from both existing sovereignties or systems, or simply the urge for reform and the resistance of such, are similar. The phenomena which gave roots to some movements are also quite a déjà vu. Though anti-Semitism existed well before World War I, it was largely confined to far-right conservatives only. However, after losing the war, a popular myth started circulating in Germany. It suggested that the German soldiers did not lose the war on the battlefield, but was stabbed in the back by Jews and communists back at the home front. In fact, that was when the phrase "stabbed in the back" was coined. With the rise of fascism after World War I, ideologies of racial supremacy among Germans and Austrians were vastly popular, and was often used to justify discrimination against minorities, including but not limited to Jews. Jews became the scapegoat. What came after was a systemic racial discrimination on a national level. Ethnic tension might not appear as blatantly today as 100 years ago, but it's definitely creeping up on us again, to say the least. With police brutality against colored individuals, increased hate crimes against Mexicans, Jews, and other minorities, and nationwide religious persecution of different forms. To say the world is racially divided today would be an understatement. Another driving force for social unrest today as well is the wealth gap. It showed that wealth was once concentrated in the hands of a few in the early 20th century, when the top 1%'s income share peaked at around 24% in 1929, exactly where the bottom 90% bottomed out at a little over 50%. In a nutshell, the top bracket, which may or may not include the same people over time, enjoyed the largest share of income, while the vast majority accounted for a decreasing share. It was only until the Great Depression, the subsequent New Deal, and World War II that shook things back more evenly. 90 years later, this cycle has come full circle again. The bottom 90% earner broke its previous low, while the top 1% may well be at or surpass its previous peak already in year 2020. With wide wealth gap comes another phenomenon. In the interwar period, workers began to feel they were exploited by capitalism, which in turn fueled uprisings in the name of socialism, led by leaders who championed the idea of seizing production means and wealth from greedy capitalists. Except Hitler's policies quickly derailed from socialism after they seized control. Fast forward to 2020, capitalism has also come into serious question again. The middle class squeeze has become more apparent than ever. Expansion of social security, welfares, and taxation on the rich are constantly being debated. According to conservatives, the problem doesn't lie in capitalism, but the lack of it, due to cronyism, which was a result from a growing size of governments. They believe any sort of central body's interventions in the free market, including an expansion of welfare state, might all be considered as degrees of socialism. From a progressive viewpoint, though, the government has a responsibility to take initiatives against economic inequality. These initiatives are reform measures needed to improve the current form of capitalism and the living standard of the mass, thus don't constitute as socialism. There are also overlaps in between, as this was just a generalization of both ends of the spectrum. More people are willing to openly accept socialism today, believing socialism was only given a bad name by fascists and communists who went about it wrong. Polarized exchanges of political and economic ideologies have once again come to the fore, and it doesn't always end in a civil manner. People gradually become inept of having rational dialogues and often resolve to shaming, labeling, and suppression of the opposite voice. These cross-era social phenomena may be coincidences or false alarms, as there is little evidence to prove there is a cause and effect relationship. But if they are indeed forming a pattern of a potential social cycle, we could well be in the prelude of an old movie, with slightly different characters and setups this time. While we may not be able to build consensus on everything, most would agree the ending to that movie was straight up horrible. If you learned something new in this video, click subscribe and the bell icon to get notified for similar weekly interesting content. For instance, what is capitalism, classical neoliberalism, or libertarianism? Click on last week's video and I'll break it to you straight in 5 minutes. See you next week.